Now something's happening. All right. This sounds a little better. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. Take a moment, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and wherever you are, share this on your page, share it on your friend's page, and let them know we're having the important conversations that we need to share around. And if you want to be part of the conversation, drop a comment below and we'll try to pop your comment up on the screen and bring you into the conversation. We've got a lot of different topics we want to cover today. And we're really going to start off with this right here. Check it out. If you are experiencing all of these different crazy weather things, you might have some thoughts on it as an individual. But it's also very interesting to take a consideration. For years, people have been saying the government's controlling the weather, the government's controlling the weather, the government's controlling the weather. And people have been like, oh, that's poppycock, That's not a real thing. The government doesn't control the weather. Well, then they come out and they say, oh, yes, cloud seeding is a thing. We do spray stuff in the sky. Oh, yes, also, Saudi Arabia is doing it, and Bahrain is doing it, and China is doing it. Just a few countries that have admitted to cloud seeding and using that to encourage it to rain. Or we could look at the American operation in Vietnam known as Popeye. If you're not familiar with Popeye, go look it up. Essentially, what we did is we caused years of torrential downpours in Vietnam, making it even more tough for our troops to perform. But the concept was to make it tougher for the Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, to actually perform against our soldiers. Now, I don't know if that helped us or if it helped them, or if it was just maniacal people sitting somewhere in some scientific lab and the people paying them behind the scenes, manipulating everything and just kind of mucking stuff up and about and just playing with people's lives like they often do. See, but when we see stuff like what happened in Florida, where they actually went to ban cloud seeding, we should start having a conversation. Because maybe the people that were saying that the government is controlling the weather aren't too far off from accurate. Maybe they're 100% right. We look at things like they've talked about for years with different projects, like the HARP in Alaska, the high altitude EMF array that they have up there, where it just shoots all types of energy into the atmosphere, bounces it off of the stratosphere and other parts of the different stuff up in the atmosphere to make the signals come down and do different things as far as not just energy transmission, but also, which they think that it can be used for directed energy, which is a whole nother conversation, but definitely for serious communications and surveillance, but also weather manipulation by changing not only the temperature in the atmosphere, but also working with the radio frequencies to, I don't know if you'd say, discombobulate or reassemble the different clouds and weather patterns, because a lot of what we need to have a conversation about is how our world is run on frequencies, right? Like sound frequencies, radio frequencies, everything is some type of kind of harmonic. That's why if you ever see throughout the history, you might every now and then hear about bells, right? And what happened to all of the bells, like not just the church bells, but they used to have bells and stuff in hospitals and stuff like that for frequency healing and stuff like that. And just now, what used to be pseudoscience a few years ago, where frequency and energy restoration for humans and biological functions is now becoming mainstream. We've even got these things that they're coming up calling med beds that fire radio frequencies and different acoustic frequencies into your body to encourage it to heal itself. So maybe a lot of the stuff that we were told was false was actually true this whole time. Maybe a lot of it has been a grand manipulation against the people And we're just really starting to find out now. And that's scary, right? Because it really makes you wonder, what else is the government doing that we don't know about, or that we've been told is not happening, that really is happening? Hey, I see you out there, Yusef. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys are tuning in, hit the like button, hit the share button. Even if you just drop an American flag in the comments, that helps the algorithm a lot. And definitely share, or even just wave and say, hi, I'm listening. So as we have this conversation about the government's history of basically covering up and diluting information in relation to what could actually help society and push society forward, we need to start having real conversations, because it's not happening. It's not happening. Now, we know that there are over 5,000 patents that are being held by the government right now because they're considered a security risk to the United States of America. But really what we see with a lot of those things is it's not so much that they be a security risk to America, it's that they destabilize different industries, like the energy industry, or like the motor vehicle industry, or like any other number of industries. And then they wouldn't be able to make as much money. So some of it is about money, but also other parts of it is actually about the government's ability to control the people. Because why would the government want you to have cheap, plentiful energy, or even free energy? The government wouldn't want that. Why would they want you to have a car that could run 1,000 miles on 2 gallons of gasoline? They wouldn't want that. Why would they want you to have a car that's able to run on water, even though we know in other smaller countries that they have cars that run on water, like Colombia and Argentina and some parts of Cuba? There have been histories of people that use these little apparatuses that they create to help their car basically create a hydrogen fuel cell to run off of that from water. And we know this to be true. We know the science is sound, but for years they tell us that these things aren't real. These things aren't real. What's going on isn't happening. Oh, don't believe that. All of this is crazy, and that is crazy. So I appreciate you sending this out. Somebody said that they're sharing. Please share. I appreciate that. Yeah, so all of this stuff that's going on is really, really, really serious. And we have to have a conversation about what the government is doing, what the government is hiding, and what's really going on, right? Because how can we have a full conversation about everything that we're experiencing every day if we're not talking about what is the government doing? And I use that to start to lean in to, we have a whole bunch of scientists that have been going missing over the last year. Imagine that. A whole bunch of scientists that work for the government. Now, this is a whole even more concerning situation, right? Like, these aren't some guys in their basement twiddling with different things that might have developed free energy or 0 point energy, and now they're missing. These are scientists that are working for the government. About 11 scientists have turned up murdered, and a couple of other ones missing, that have been working on things that are in different industries tied to the federal government, like the Jet Propulsion Labs and NASA and different other various groups and stuff like that. So we have to start asking ourselves, wait a second, 11 scientists that are dealing with propulsion and energy frequencies and energy sourcing and stuff like that, all of a sudden just end up dead in under a year? Like, what's going on here? You know, and for me personally, I feel like alarms should have been set off at the FBI or at one of the many alphabet agencies that investigate this type of stuff once there were 2 or 3 missing or dead. Like, you know, how many do you need to make a pattern? 11? It's 11. And the only reason why we're finding out that 11 scientists are dead now is because it ended up in Congress. And we know how Congress operates. Congress ain't but about no good, and they're about as efficient as a turd in a toilet at the top of Mount Vesuvius. Like, I mean, like, that's not a real thing. Who's going all the way up there? Nobody about to use that. That's not about to work. You know, like, it's kind of crazy. So if it wasn't for that, we never would have even known. Now, what's happened to these scientists, right? Were they murdered by another foreign country? Were they aiding and abetting a foreign country? Like, what is really going on here? These are the conversations we're not having. What were they working on? I'd like to know what those scientists were working on. Now, all of a sudden, they're all dead. And of course, they were working for various different agencies, but all just in similar type of aspects of things. And now the FBI, Kash Patel, I know a lot of you guys aren't so happy with him. I'm not happy with him. I like Kash Patel. At least I liked him, past tense. I'm kind of out on a limb with him right now because I don't see him arresting enough people that need to be arrested, which is a whole nother conversation for a whole nother segment. But when it comes to all of these missing dead scientists, what's going on? Is this a national security risk? Were they aiding and abetting our adversaries? Were they selling technology to the Chinese? Were they selling technology to, I don't know, Europe? What was going on with these people? Were they all working on different projects for the government that we don't know about, that they said that they were going to go public with? And the government was like, y'all not about to go public about nothing. And then they disappeared and dead? Like, is that what happened? It's kind of like how we know that the CIA and other different organizations and shady people in the military and stuff like that just kill off people, or make it look like an accident. The famous CIA heart attack or the CIA stroke of people that were relatively healthy, but now all of a sudden are magically dead. And I love my country. Don't get it twisted. Nobody loves my country more than I love my country. But the fact of the matter is that we should not be willfully ignorant of the way that our country operates or the history of our nation. That's one of the big reasons why I don't like these people out here pushing to tear down statues. I don't like them pushing to rewrite history or erase movies or erase things because it might make somebody feel some type of way or because they feel that it's racist or something like that, which is kind of crazy because usually it's some white people that say, oh, well, that might be considered racist or something like that. Who are you to have any say in what is considered racist or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Because for years, what we've had these white people that are pushing, oh, this is racist, that is racist. And normally people will say, oh, well, that's the leftist liberals and stuff like that. But it's more than just the liberals, right? Like it's people that are in power that are working on collectively rewriting the history of our nation so that they can just basically be like, oh, well, that never happened. And this has always been the truth. Like we've always been at war with East Asia. OK, if you're not familiar with what I'm referencing the book 1984, where they would always consistently shift and change history and rewrite history to the better benefit of the people in power, the party, Big Brother. And that's what we're witnessing in real time right now. You'll tell something to somebody about something that happened a month or two ago, and they're like, oh, no, that never happened. The news just showed the other day that this is what's going on. What are you even talking about? Like, I know I witnessed it. This happened, It's not, I forget what it's called, where you believe that something used to be a different way and now they're saying it's another way, and it's always been that, like the cornucopia with Fruit of the Loom. Drop what that's called in the comments. I'll try to pop that up. It's slipping my mind right now. But this is something that's happening actively right now. Right now. They're erasing history. They're erasing facts. Again, back to the bells for harmonic resonance and stuff like that, like we talked about in the beginning of the show, like all of the bells have been destroyed. Like you look at pictures from after World War II, where they were rounding up all of the bells and destroying all of the bells. You really have to start asking yourself, what was going on with the bells? Why were the bells destroyed? Like you really have to start asking yourself these questions. Like, who is rewriting history? They say the famous quote is, whoever to the victor, that's who writes history, The victor writes history. So who are these people that are rewriting history or erasing history? And this goes back into the medical field like we were talking about previously. They've said that a whole bunch of things just in my lifetime, right? Like I'm young enough to remember when acupuncture and stuff was pseudoscience. Acupuncture doesn't work, even though it's been working in China and India and other countries for thousands of years, right? Acupuncture isn't real. Now you can get a script for it from Medicaid. Make it make sense. And we're talking about just a few years ago, like 10, 15 years ago. It'd have been considered pseudoscience. So what is going on? Why is this stuff being hidden? And what are we really to understand is being done? And this goes back into the missing scientists. Were they working on just on instant transmission? Were they working on some sort of new propulsion system that we don't know about? Were they working on some new sort of thing that is hypersonic transmission? What were they working on, really? Were they working on some new 0-point energy thing or something like that? How are they all magically dead? And how is it just now getting out to the news? How is it just now a conversation? How is it just now 11 scientists are dead that worked in very serious industries like the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab and other parts of the military and other parts of the government, working on all these different various projects for the government, and they're just magically dead. Dead. Gone. And they were a footnote until magically it came up in Congress. Somebody brought it to the attention of some congressperson, and the congressperson was like, hold on, this is kind of weird. Because that would have never gotten out to the public. Because we know how they roll. And that's a serious issue. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It doesn't cost you nothing. Be part of the conversation. Drop some American flags or some thumbs up in the comments. Just even say hi. All of that helps the algorithm to get it out to more people. Because we need to be having these important conversations. And as we go into the next portion of the conversation, we got some conversations about Iran coming up. We got some conversations about the Pope coming up. We got some conversations about Israel coming up. We got some conversations about China, Indonesia, and a whole bunch of everywhere else except not Rhodesia, not today. Anyway, share this out with your friends, your family, and everybody else that you know, because they need to be part of the conversation too. Let's see here. We got a conversation. Somebody said they were old. That's funny. Out here making me choke. That's hilarious. But yeah, so as we have this conversation about the things that continue to be wiped away in our society through our history and stuff like that, we need to understand that there are powerful people behind the scenes, whether it's the government, whether it's private industry, corporations and stuff like that, or maybe it's just the people that are in power, the elite. That's something that needs to be the conversation, because again, while I love my country, I'm not stupid, right? Like, you'd have to be stupid to think that everybody in power has our best interests at heart. Most of them don't care. Like, you ask one of these super ultra wealthy people, how much is a gallon of milk? They don't know. How much is a loaf of bread? They don't know. How much is a stick of butter? Nobody knows. They don't know, because they're not even the same socioeconomic range as you. These people don't have the same priorities as you. They don't care. They don't care. So this is why we have to be very, very cognitively aware of things like these missing scientists that are gone now. Because what were they working on? And why can't we talk about that? I think that that's more of an issue, because these people are working on things like aerospace, fusion, and biotech stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that's some very serious issues. And these were high level scientists, right? These were high level scientists. It's really, really concerning. Some of them were working on nuclear thermal propulsion, right? Like nuclear thermal propulsion. So essentially that's forever energy, but for travel, right? So think about it like this. We've got a ton of destroyers for the US. We've got a ton of submarines and stuff like that. We've got aircraft carriers. All of these big, huge boats and ships are all powered by nuclear energy. They have been for decades, right? Like, we got rid of the oil-based submarines back in what? The 50s? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the last one was decommissioned in like the 1970s or something like that. They even made a joke about it in a movie one time. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but it was a good movie. It was kind of a comedy action thing. But it's interesting how these people are now just coming to the light, and nobody was talking about it before. I mean, nuclear thermal propulsion, hypersonics, and other stuff. Like, what are we doing? Nobody said anything about that. That to me sounds like a national security thing everybody should know about. If something like that happens, I want to know about it when 2 scientists are dead, not when it's 11 scientists, because that tells me that some real bogus stuff is going on. You know, something really odd is going on there. And as we know, we're working on different spaceships and space destroyers and all types of other things. I know some people might laugh and say, oh, we're not working on space destroyers. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Along with space moon trains. Don't get me started on the moon trains. $500 billion for a moon train that the U.S. Congress put in for under the last administration under Biden to build a train on the moon. We don't even have adequate air capabilities in the U.S. right now because they've let the airport and the air system degrade. You know what I'm saying? Like $500 billion for a moon train. I don't want no daggone moon train. You better send a spaceship up and a spaceship back down on that bad boy. You know what I'm saying? Why I can't hop across the moon. And I'm joking, but I'm also kind of serious. $500 billion. Man, please. But this goes to show you that the government is working on a whole bunch of different projects and things that we don't even know about going on. We don't even know that's going on. So when they say that these scientists have magically disappeared, we need to look closer into that. We really do, especially with the highly competitive nature of aerospace technology today, but more so than that, on space technology today. This is very, very, very serious. But I use that to go into the whole issue with the FBI in and of itself, right? I'm wondering who dropped the ball in the FBI, right? Like all of the sudden, and just now you're talking about it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It's a problem. I don't like it. And it's very kind of upsetting. I'm concerned that there's a lot of infiltration going on in the U.S. right now, and nobody's talking about it. We look at, again, speaking of the FBI, they just arrested this Iranian lady. Let me say this again. The FBI just arrested this Iranian lady that was trafficking guns into the U.S. and back to Iran and back and forth and through other countries, and she's Iranian. So, and she's got her U.S. residency. So we've got an Iranian gun smuggler in the U.S. smuggling guns in the U.S. and we're just finding out about it. Like we're just stopping her now. See, this goes into a whole nother conversation about how we should not be letting these people into this country to begin with. Stop letting people into this country. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, don't stop letting people in the country. We need legal immigration. I don't want legal immigration either. I don't want it. You want to know why I don't want legal immigration? Because we let too many people in. We got so many people right now that we need to process for immigration inside our country right now. It would take 2 decades, 20 years for us to process everybody right now. And you talking about you want to let more people in? You know, and we keep seeing these types of things happen in Congress where they're like, oh, let's extend TPS for these people or those people. Oh, let's see if we can bring some more people over from China. 500,000 people they want to bring over from China as on student visas. I don't want no Chinese people over here. Are you kidding me right now? The CCP runs all them Chinese people that you be bringing over here. The Chinese require any Chinese citizen to owe allegiance to China. And we shouldn't have anybody in this country like that. Okay? You want to let them over here when really they're obligated. They are obligated by China to spy for China. They are obligated. And if you're not familiar with what happens if you don't spy for China, if you're Chinese or have family in China, they will torture your family on levels that you could not even fathom. I'm talking about when you say cut somebody to ribbons, I'm talking about they will shave your families up like they are shaved steaks, just cutting little slithers out of them little by little every day. I was listening to somebody that survived some of their torture, and they were like, what they would do is every morning they would dump them in a vat of poo water. a vat of poo water. So essentially what would happen is, you go in there, you're all right, but you keep getting dunked in cold poo water every single day. You start to get sick, you start to get weak, you start to develop ailments and stuff like that. What type of level of egregious torture that most Americans couldn't even fathom is that? Can we have that conversation? China is super evil. We shouldn't be letting nobody from nowhere over here. Are you crazy? Look at what they've done to Taiwan. Like, are you out of your mind? Look at what they're doing. And we're going to talk about Taiwan in a minute. But I meant to say Hong Kong. Look at what they've done to Hong Kong. Okay? Putting all of those people in there in jail and torturing all of those people and all of this and all of that. Now they're taking over Taiwan and South Korea through so-called diplomacy, but really they're putting plants in their different levels of government. And that's happening. And that's causing them to be more faithful and lean more towards friendship with China. And I use friendship lightly because all China is using is they're using them as a subversive option to subvert the government and to gain more power there so that they can slowly integrate with them more and more and more, just like they did Hong Kong. We need to wake up and understand the severity of what China is doing. But I want to take 2 seconds. We'll come back to China in a moment and remind you, you are listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. And we are here in your ear on Rochester Free Radio, WRFZ 106.3 LP. We are here. If you want to help the show and listen to us on the radio, you can go to Patreon and you can go to Rochester Free Radio and you can donate on Patreon. If you're online and you want to help out the show, right there on either sides of the screen or down below, depending on how you're watching the show, which orientation. But yeah, man, pitch into the show. We help us make more episodes and stuff like that because we're sponsored by viewers like you. Our station stays alive by viewers like you, like that's kind of like what they say on public radio, but that's what we are. We are a small public radio station and we're trying to get more spread across the state and across the nation, and if you're watching online, hit that follow button and hit subscribe, drop some comments, be part of the conversation and share. That's the best you can do is share and get it out there because it doesn't cost you nothing. Now, let's get back into this lady that's over here in the U.S. That's an Iranian citizen that's selling guns in the U.S. So not like she's got her FFL license, She doesn't have a federal firearms license. She's out here running guns in the U.S., this Iranian lady. What is going on? Who is she giving guns to, bro? Like, do they have insurgents inside our country? Do they have sleeper cells inside our country waiting to pounce on us when they're given the signal? Like, what is going on here? And we need to be more alarmed about these issues because some people are like, oh, well, you shouldn't talk about this. You shouldn't talk about that. Who shouldn't talk about what? Don't tell me what I shouldn't talk about. That's wild. Like, we got somebody that we are actively engaged in a serious arc of military engagement with right now that's running weapons inside the United States. How did she ever get her residency here in the US? This is the problem. This is a serious, serious, serious problem. Now, as we talk about serious, crazy things, I got to blow my nose for 2 seconds, so please bear with me. So anyway, as we have these serious conversations about stuff going on across the world, let's take it over to the Iranian area for a second, okay? So over in Iran, we know there's a number of other countries over there. There's Pakistan, there's Afghanistan, there's Syria, there's Turkey, and there's Israel, right? And there's Israel, but there's also Oman, there's Bhutan, or not Bhutan, but what's the other one? Bahrain. There's Saudi Arabia and a whole bunch of other countries. Now, over the weekend, Trump said that, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me right now, but Trump said, Israel has proven itself one of our greatest allies. No, that's not what he said. He said, Israel has proven itself to be a great ally, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Because if you've been following Trump, he's been harshing on the EU for not helping us in this military engagement over there in the Strait of Hormuz and stuff like that. But He said this coming on the same weekend when we have images of a IDF soldier in Lebanon smashing you guys, smashing with a hammer, a giant mallet-looking hammer, the effigy of, I guess you would call it an effigy or whatever you want, a representational image of Jesus Christ, right? Like if you've ever seen the cross with a Jesus on it or a thing representing Jesus on it, like he's smashing Jesus with a hammer. Like this IDF soldier is smashing Jesus with a hammer. See, but that goes into a larger conversation of how Israel feels about Christians. And people be letting them play in your face like Israel's okay with us. They're our friends and stuff like that. Okay, let's separate Israel as a nation state and so-called ally. And I say so-called loosely because it's only when our interests actually help their interests, because they're more concerned about their own interests as a nation state and not about what the U.S. wants. That's why they killed up everybody in Iran. That's why we don't have anybody to negotiate in Iran. And that's why we're still over in Iran right now, is because of Israel. Okay, so you tell me they're our greatest ally or whatever, I'm gonna look you dead in your face and say you've lost your cotton picking mind, because Israel does what Israel wants for itself, which is good, right? Which is good, by the way. Don't get it twisted. I think Israel does a great job of representing itself as a nation state. I just want the U.S. to do the same thing that Israel does, okay? Because Israel do whatever it wants, and it tells America what? Like it punks us, okay? And that is a problem. Because we be out there, oh, well, it's our greatest ally. Are they, though? Are they? No, they're our ally of convenience. Let's be real. I don't know that the U.S. has a greatest ally, but if it was, it wouldn't be one that's killing the people that we're doing negotiations with. It wouldn't be ones that are forcing us into attacks because they're threatening to attack other people, provoking them, those other people, to launch attacks on our bases. Can we have that as a comprehensive conversation? You know? But to the bigger conversation there, Israel does not like Christians, period, full stop. They closed off the church of the Holy Sepulchre for Easter. Okay, they closed off the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for what do you call it? For Palm Sunday. Okay, they didn't close down the temples and the stuff for the Jews. Why didn't they do that? It's a security risk for the Christians, but not for the Jews. You make that make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. Okay, and they're taking and stealing the land from the church over there in the Holy Land. Go look it up, okay? Because I don't got time to cover it the way that it really deserves. And I know people are going to have a lot of mouth about it. Don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm telling you now. Go look it up, okay? Now, talking about this issue of how Israel doesn't like Christians, and I don't know why we have to play like they do, okay? They've got the IDF soldiers over there destroying statues of Jesus. And what is being said about it? Nothing. Nothing is being said about it. I didn't hear, what's his name? Oh my goodness, I can see his face. Mike Huckabee say anything about it. Maybe he'll say something about it today. But I didn't hear Trump say anything about it. Trump, are you going to say anything about the IDF soldiers destroying the statue of Jesus? Huh? You going to say something? Or are you going to let them take another poo on Christians like they've continuously been doing? Can we talk about that? Okay, our greatest ally, my hindquarters. Okay, this is a problem. You tell me that they're our greatest ally, but they're over here not only blowing up Christian towns, go look it up, okay, in Gaza, in Lebanon, and this has been going on for some time in Lebanon, but it's always been continuously under the radar. I've talked about it on other shows like last year and the year before when it was not even covered on the news at all, okay? Israel's responsible for all of the tens of thousands of Christians getting murdered up in Syria. Don't get me started on that conversation, but nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that because where is the accountability for this country that's supposed to be our greatest ally? If they're our greatest ally, we need to be able to hold them accountable for what they are doing to the Christians. Everybody wants to get out there that's all in power right now and say, oh, well, we do have a heritage of Christianity in our nation. Then do something and say something to protect and stick up for Christians. And then half of these people out here running around call themselves Christians, call themselves Catholics, won't stand up for Christians. Make it make sense to me. Then they want to side with the enemies of Christ? Huh? These people hate Christ. Don't play in my face like they like Christ. They don't believe in Jesus. Their whole religion, especially when it comes to rabbinical and Talmudic Judaism, is against Christ on a high level, not on a low level. They spit on Christians over there. Like, are we really having a serious conversation? No. And this isn't me talking bad about them at all. Never that. I'm not talking bad about them. I wouldn't dare talk bad about them. I'm stating facts. I'm stating actual facts. Go look it up. We got some comments coming in. Let's see the comments. Don't say nothing too wild because I will not put it up there. Somebody says Israel doesn't want peace. Well, Israel doesn't want peace very simply because it's profitable for them to have destabilization in the area that are their neighbors, right? Because what happens as they destabilize their neighbors, like Lebanon, they take parts of Lebanon and incorporate it into Israel. As they destabilize things like Gaza, they take parts of Gaza and incorporate it into their country. We saw the same thing in the Golan Heights. We're seeing the same things in parts of Syria. We see it going on in Jordan. But can we have that conversation? Go look up Greater Israel Project. Okay, go look that up. Okay, people like that's not real. It definitely is. And honestly, again, I'm not mad at them, right? Because do what's best for you, right? I'm not mad at them. But for us to willfully disacknowledge that this stuff is going on and this stuff is happening, it's crazy. And for somebody to be like, oh, well, you can't talk about, who says I can't talk about what? I can't talk about reality. I can't talk about facts. You understand what I'm saying? I could talk about the US all day long. I could talk about Europe all day long. But the second that I talk about another country that's doing stuff that's against the interests of either Christians or against the interests of the United States of America, then it's a problem. Somebody's got to make that make sense. And again, I don't have a big issue with what Israel does when it goes to Israel, because I recognize that the people that are in power are doing what they can to stay in power and take more power for their own nation. But when it comes to interference in what the U.S. needs to do for what's best for the U.S., that is a conflict. When they are going after Christians, that is a conflict. And we, as Americans, need to speak up. Okay? That's serious. Somebody says the IDF rules, the USA rules. Well, that is very true. The IDF, very clearly, the IDF is a very strong and capable military force. Nobody should ever try to take that away from them. But again, their continued attacks on Christians are highly problematic. Highly problematic. Their destruction of churches is highly problematic. Their attacks on Christian villages is highly problematic. Okay? We're not talking about the stuff that they're doing to Muslims. Okay, we're not talking about anything they're doing to secular people. I'm talking specifically about Christians. Okay, so these are serious, serious issues. Somebody said, imagine a country so great that even the ones who hate us refuse to leave. That's what America is right now. This goes back into the conversation about the lady that was from Iran that's over here, that's out here trafficking guns. I'd like to know who she was trafficking guns for, where the guns were going, and if we should be concerned about terror cells in our country. Because we know we should, right? Because speaking again of the Middle East and Iran and stuff like that, they are in bed with Hezbollah, right? Hezbollah had training camps in Venezuela. We know that. Hezbollah was training the cartels in Mexico. We know that. These are things that we know, right? Then under Biden's open border policies, how many of those people came into our nation, right? And now y'all telling us that we can't get rid of these people. If it's up to me, everybody's gone. Everybody. We have too many people here that didn't come in the right way, that now they're talking about we need to keep them here. I don't want them here. And I'm sorry, I don't want TPS extended for anybody either. They just recently pushed to extend TPS for Haitians in Congress the other day. Now, that was in the House of Representatives. I don't know if it's gone through in Senate yet. I haven't heard about it going through in the Senate yet. I hope it doesn't go through. Now, for myself, I was saying that they need to extend TPS to the Haitians way before anybody else was. I was very upset that they weren't extending the TPS to the Haitians originally because we killed their president. Yeah, we did it. It was the United States. The United States, probably the CIA. We had a wet work team that went in there that was tied to the CIA that took out their president, cut his head off, put it on the bed. The whole just look into the story of what happened to their president, bro. Like, it's wild bananas. Now they got a guy over there that's cannibalizing people. That's one of the largest warlords over there, barbecue, and all types of other crazy stuff. Like, it's crazy what's going on in Haiti. But I still don't think that we should extend TPS for them. If we want to extend TPS for them, we should be taking over Haiti. I fully support taking over Haiti. Don't get it twisted, okay? People say, oh, America's an imperial nation or whatever the case is, Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. That's a lie. America is not an imperial nation. I wish we were an imperial nation. I wish we were going out taking territory and taking lands and incorporating them into the United States for the greater benefit of the United States and the citizens. That's not what we do. We don't do any of that. Don't play in my face. So when we let all of these Haitians stay over here, okay, it's a problem. It is a very, 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 very serious problem. When we say, okay, this is our Congress, by the way. Okay, the Congress of the people, of the citizens of the United States of America, right? I understand being altruistic, right? I understand wanting to help other people, but you explain to me how keeping those Haitians here is helping the United States citizens. Explain it to me very simple, like I'm 5. I want to know. And again, like I said, I was supporting Haitians coming over here before anybody else was. Okay, and you can go back and check my videos on it. Okay, because I've talked about that a number of times. But if we want them to stay, and Congress is going to say, oh, they should stay, how is it helping us? How is it helping us? And why now, all of a sudden? I'll tell you why. We'll get into that and we'll break it down. But please hit the like button, hit the share button, drop some comments. I try to pop them up on the screen as they come in. We're getting some in. I'm trying to put them all up there as they come in. Somebody's talking about abortion and stuff like that. We're not talking about that right now, but you're right. We got a whole bunch of comments coming in, but as they come in, I'll try to pop them up on the screen, right? If you got some good stuff. So as we're talking about the situation with Haiti, I need to be clear on this, right? The situation with Haiti is part of a larger plan for mass, not just asylum, you guys. This is important. Not just asylum, but also they're going to naturalize all these people. They're going to naturalize all these people. Guess how long the asylum has been, the TPS has been extended for the Haitians? 2 to 3 years. You know what happens in 2 to 3 years? We'll have another president in 2 to 3 years. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Then on top of that, we have a whole nother situation called the Dignity Act. Please go look that up. So the Dignity Act is being pushed by 20 Democrats and 20 Republicans. 2 of the major Republicans leaning on it right now are Maria Salazar, okay, and Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler's from New York State. Mike, I can't wait to catch you in person because I got words for you on this, dude. You are becoming a traitor to our nation. You are disservicing our people. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care that I'm a Republican and you're a Republican. What you are doing not only goes against the philosophy of republicanism, it goes against the best interest of the American people, okay? And Maria Salazar can kick rocks, and so can the rest of those other 20 Republicans, okay? Ridiculous, trash, make you want to spit. So they've got this thing called the Dignity Act that would essentially make it so there are 10 million people that are going to be naturalized by it, okay? And then that also essentially stops any deportations for the next 2 to 3 years. It's wild. It's wild, and they're trying to pass it. But wait, there's that 2 to 3 years thing again, right? Like the TPS for the Haitians, right? Why is it 2 to 3 years? Because in 2 to 3 years, Trump will be out of office, and they're anticipating either a Democrat president or somebody that is softer on the immigration situation than Trump is, or they're figuring that have been here so long by then, they can just make the case for them to be able to actually stay now. We need to stop this now. You know what else is coming up soon that we need to have a conversation about? A census. And we know that places like New York State and other states have lost massive amounts of population. Okay, a lot of blue states have lost massive amounts of population. So that means that they'd be redistricted and that they would have less House of Representative members, which means that they would have less power in their caucus, which means that all of these people moving to these different Republican states and red states and stuff like that, those states would have more power. This is why the Democrats do not want the question of citizenship to be on the census. And we need to have a very serious conversation about that, because all of this stuff is tied together. It's not like this stuff is happening in a vacuum. It's not like this stuff is happening independent. And it's really kind of crazy. It's so disgusting, it makes you want to spit. And I'm going to spit right now because I'm just disgusted and fed up. This is the problem. Right now, what we are facing in our nation, these people that are pushing this sympathy and this huggy, kissy, lovey-dovey stuff for all these foreigners and illegal aliens are traitors to our nation. I'm going to say it again. Everybody that is pushing this sympathy and is pushing asylum and is pushing expanding TPS and expanding things like naturalization and giving citizenship and mass amnesty, all of those people are traitors to our nation. They need to be brought up on capital offense charges for treason because they are acting against the best interest of the American citizens. Full stop. Okay? Full stop. This is very, very, very serious. Very serious. It is an abomination against our nation. And this is what people need to understand. We got to get it together. We got to. Because if we don't stand up now, they're going to erase us. You know, people are like, oh, the great replacement, they're replacing white people. They are not replacing white people. They are replacing all Americans. You understand what I'm saying? You think that they're just replacing white people? You've lost your mind. They're replacing all Americans. Wake up. Hit that like button. Hit the share button, hit the subscribe, make sure you're following, and drop a comment, even if it's an American flag or just a, hey, I'm listening, or I like your show in the comments. All of it helps the algorithm. So what these people are doing in our country to try to give mass amnesty, to try to incorporate these other people into our nation, to make us more dependent on them, is bad for us as citizens. This is why you've got people like Vivek Ramaswamy or Rona Cohen or whatever, however you say his name, the Indian guy that's a Democrat, Cohen or whatever. Drop his name in the comments. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Him and a number of other Democrats all talking about, oh, heritage Americans don't matter. Like what? Heritage make you, if you're a heritage American, that doesn't make you more American than anybody else. You sound crazy outside your mind. These are the same people that have been fighting to erase our history, like we were talking about in the beginning of the show. You think that they're trying to get rid of our history for no reason? If they can get rid of our history, they can get rid of our lineage, our ties to the land, our claims to the land, and rewrite all of history to make it look like everybody else that was here was always been here. It's the same way they try to say, oh, well, immigrants built our nation. Lies. Lies and deceits. Immigrants did not build our nation, right? You had the settlers help build our nation. You had the slaves help build our nation. Then our nation was built, and then the immigrants came, right? Then you had the industrial age, okay, hasten after World War II, right? And who built the country during that time? The freed people, the freedmen, right? Look up the Great Migration. That's how my family ended up in New York State. Look up the Great Migration. Okay, the freedmen built this country. The settlers built this country. Stop telling us immigrants built this country. You understand? Now, immigrants may have had a part in the fabric of our history in this country, but to say that they built our nation is purposefully and intentful to steal away rich American heritage and steal away from those who have long American lineage. And this even goes for people that might consider themselves immigrants, right? Because essentially, if you're saying that you were Dutch here before World War II, they don't consider you to be an immigrant. You know, they're not talking about you. They're talking about these Spanish people that came over the fence last week. Don't let them play in your face. Okay? This is a problem. They're talking about the Africans that just got here last year. They're not talking about you. Don't feel any affinity for them. Whenever they say immigrant, they are lying. Okay? They are deceiving you. They are trying to say, oh, well, you know, everybody's got family from other countries. No, man, stop. Stop. Don't listen to them. You're being conned. That's what they want. They want you to feel affinity for these people that are taking resources from our country as they dilute our country, our culture, our way of life, and the American language, which is American English. And now they want everybody to speak Spanish. I'm completely against it. Now, if you're Italian, or if your family's Italian, or if your family's Irish, and you go back some decades in this country, you may have had family that's like, yeah, you don't speak your historical language from your country outside. You learn English. You learn English, right? Like I know a lot of you guys have had that experience, and this is something that we need to talk about. Well, why was it like that? Because they wanted people to integrate, and now they don't want you to integrate. They don't want you to integrate at all. This is a problem. Thank you, Joey. I see you there. I appreciate you. Somebody said you're clapping. I appreciate you too. Thank you. So this is what they're trying to do. Your family had been here and they told you, they said, no, you need to learn to speak English. And you shouldn't even really be talking our language outside of the house. The same thing happened with Germans, right? So Germans in the US, in my area, we had a lot of Germans in our area, Germans and Dutch. Okay. And if you have family that traces their lineage back to Germany or the Netherlands and stuff like that, you'll hear the stories about that, right? Speaking of which, did you know that Sojourner Truth spoke Dutch? Yeah. So she spoke Dutch. If you don't know who Sojourner Truth is, go look her up. Excuse me, I got to blow my nose. But yeah, this is serious business. What we've had these people that say, oh, no, they don't have to speak English. Our country is a melting pot of all of this and all of that. Look, man, I don't care nothing about the melting pot, right? I want these people to come in, melt in the pot, and become part of the pot, not make all these extra additional flavors in the pot that don't go along with the daggone soup. Okay? Stop adding poo to our soup. That's what you're doing. Okay? This is the problem in our nation right now. We've got all of these people that come over here. They don't want to integrate with our nation. They don't want to integrate with our society. So they're like, oh, well, you should conform to us. I saw this young lady, I guess she was speaking in Texas, because Texas has a big issue with Indians. I didn't realize until a couple of years ago, Modi, the prime minister of India, went down and did a huge thing when Trump was running for office. And there was like millions of Indians down there. I didn't even realize there was that many Indians down there. And somehow a couple of years ago, like last year, I woke up and Indians were in every branch of the government. I was like, this is a problem. I didn't even realize they snuck up on me. And if you guys know anything about Indians don't integrate very well. Okay, they keep to themselves, and they kind of do not, like, you don't see interracial marriage with them. Not that I'm encouraging interracial marriage. I'm not very big on miscegenation at all. So that's a whole separate conversation. But I'm just saying, as an example, they don't really do other things with other people and stuff like that. It's very rare, right? You really kind of got to be third generation Indian American to really start to get involved with other things and stuff like that. But I saw this Indian lady, okay, and she's talking about, oh, well, you know, Indians don't push their religion on other people and stuff like that. That's making an assumption that all Indians are Hindu like her, which they're not. That's not necessarily. There are Indians that are a number of different, religions, including Christian and Muslim and a number of other different smaller religions as well. So don't forget Buddhism and stuff like that too. So she was talking about how, oh, well, people shouldn't be promoting fear against us and stuff like that and blah, 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 blah. Why not? Why not? You want to build these giant temples and stuff like that. You want to make all of these things in this country different for yourself so you feel more comfortable instead of integrating into our society. I feel like a giant 400-foot statue of a Hindu god is not integrating into society. I feel like that has nothing to do with the United States of America. I feel like that is antithetical to our nation. I'm just saying. And when I say feel, I'm just really trying to say it in a nice way. I know for 100% fact that that's what it is, right? That's exactly what it is. Okay. And again, like I said, they do not integrate very well at all. Okay. That doesn't take away anything from their capabilities or anything. I'm not talking about their country or anything like that. I'll let other people do that. I don't have time for that. I actually have a kind of a positive look on India, except for their push for digital currency and what they've done over there. If that's tragic. That's a whole separate conversation. And the way that it's just a lot of dirty poo and stuff over there. That's a whole nother conversation on how they need to go back to their country and fix their own country, you know. But if they want to integrate over here, that's okay, you know. A lot of them do speak English very heartily, and that I'll give them credit for, which is different than a lot of other groups. Okay, a lot of other groups don't speak English so much, but they really do try to do that. So that is something I take my hat off to you on that one. But she was like, people shouldn't be promoting fear about why. Why should they not? You think, and she's like, well, the Hindus aren't trying to convert people. Yeah, they might not be, but I see what happens in India to Christians in Hindu areas. They beat them, they torture them. I have a friend who does evangelism, who goes to India and does evangelism. They beat him so bad, they had to take out 2 inches of his spine. Okay, they beat this man in India so bad because he's a Christian evangelist that they had to take out 2 inches of his spine like this. You understand what I'm saying? So you mean to tell me that they shouldn't be alarmed? I'm alarmed. I think somebody should be alarmed. Somebody should be raising the alarm there. You know, I'm less worried about the Indians that are sheiks, because sheik, you really have to be part of the sheik community. You got to kind of be like born into it. You can't really convert to get into that. So that's a different conversation. You know, that's a little bit of a different conversation. Also, the sheiks be standing against the Muslims real hard. So mad props to y'all out there, especially the sheiks in England that are standing up against Islam over there right now. Okay. Somebody says, what they say? Take what they learn and fix their own homeland. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. That's exactly what I was just saying. But I want to take a moment, and I do want to get into a couple of other topics in relation to energy, what's going on with China and Taiwan and Korea, like we were just talking about. And if we have some time, I'll even jump into some stuff about HUD. So, because there's just so much going on that we could talk for days. But before we go into that, I do want to talk on the Pope and what's going on with him. Did you see the Pope speak out about the IDF soldiers destroying the statue of Jesus? No, he didn't have anything to say, but he wanted to get all in Trump's face and talk about, oh, well, God doesn't bless those who do war or stuff like that. What are you talking about? Do you not read the Bible? Like, what are you even talking about? Yes, he does. The whole Bible is a book that is a treatise on war, politics, and how to live. Like, what are you talking about? Like, read the actual Bible. And then people are out here carrying water for this guy who's calls himself the Pope, who how he got in there is questionable, because they filled the cardinals of the College of Cardinals, the Sacred College, with all of these very, very, very non-traditional so-called Catholics that do all this alphabetism and all this other nonsense under the previous Pope, okay, who him getting in there is questionable, because some people question Benedict even stepping down, if that even was done right in the whole first place, if you guys aren't familiar, okay? Like, I'm not Catholic, but I stay up on that because I have a great affinity for the church, and I'm very concerned that the Catholic Church is close to a schism, similar to what just happened with the Anglican Church when they anointed that, what's called him? The Bishop of Canterbury. I think she's a bishop now. Okay, the gay lady as a bishop. You understand what I'm saying? They done lost a rabbit behind mine in the Anglican faith. So the African Anglicans all separated from them. They said, we don't do this nonsense. That's against scripture, right? But did we hear the Pope say anything about this, what's going on right now? No, he didn't say nothing, but he said to Trump, oh, this and all that. And then people get mad at Trump for saying anything back to him. Like the Pope is the end all and be all, and he's infallible and all of this and all of that. The Pope isn't infallible, but he's going specifically and directly against scripture. The Pope is going against scripture. Like, we're not talking about something that is questionable, if that's in scripture or not, or it's something that could be tradition that's not in scripture. No, directly against scripture. But more than that, he's going against tradition because he's going against the church fathers. He's out here saying stuff like, oh, we should all live in love with the Muslims. What? What? The stuff that our early church fathers, like John Chrysostom, I can't even pronounce his name right. It's spelled weird. St. John Christopher, go look him up like that and you'll find his name. It's like John Chrysostom or something like that. Go look him up. Love that guy. Fantastic. Okay. But him and all of the other church fathers and stuff like that, you should see their commentary on the Muslims, or you should see their commentary on the Jews. You understand what I'm saying? Speaking of which, St. Christopher has a good one, a good homily about the Jews. Go listen to that. But these people are our canonized saints. You understand what I'm saying? Talking against what the Pope is currently talking about. How dare you, bro? The audacity. Then you over there talking about you're the whole high holy see and you're putting Muslim prayer rooms in the Vatican? Are you on drugs? Are you high? Or are you kissing the devil's feet at night? I'm starting to ask questions. Somebody made a joke on one of my posts the other day. They said those exorcists that just took a trip to the Vatican, maybe they need to go back because they didn't finish the job. And you know, and the Bible warns about stuff like this. It really does. I don't want to dive too deep in that because maybe we'll do that next episode or an additional episode on the page. So make sure you hit the follow and subscribe. But people forget that the Pope is also a king, right? Like, he is the king of the Vatican. The Vatican is its own country, and it has a king, and its king is the Pope. So we need to understand that very often when the Pope is speaking, he is speaking as a head of state, not necessarily for the body of Christ. Okay? And his prerogatives do not always align with what scripture tells us. So as a matter of fact, just to be very clear, let's start with the 10 Commandments. I'll touch on it briefly because I want to go into some other things. We talk about the 10 Commandments. You know, it says, people be like, oh, it says, thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill. It says, thou shalt not murder. Murder is unjustly or against the innocents and stuff like that. That is murder. Okay? Killing can be righteousness. And can be done righteously. And in many parts of the Bible, it says under certain circumstances, you are supposed to go out and kill people and go to war with them. So what are you talking about? Okay. Look at David or Solomon or all these other kings in the Bible that we have as our predecessors that are out here praying for the downfall of their enemies or victory in battle, or the whole thing with oh my goodness, what do you call it? It'll come to me in a moment. It'll come to me in a moment. It's slipping my mind. The story where they had too many soldiers and God was like, no, you got too many soldiers. I want less so people will understand that I am the God of all gods, the host of hosts. And I'm the one who can make something out of nothing and nothing happen out of something. You know, so this is serious. And, you know, it's very interesting because in the Bible, it refers to God, the Father, as the Lord of hosts, right? So it also says in the Bible that Adonai, God the Father, Adonai is a man of war. Okay, I believe that's Psalms. Okay, this is what it says about our God. You understand what I'm saying? Our God is a man of war. Okay, not of this passive PC poo-poo, foo-foo nonsense. Okay, Like, where does that come from? It refers to him very often in the Old Testament as the Lord of hosts, okay? Of the Lord of the heavenly armies. Army. Hello? Is this thing on? Let me tap this microphone, see if it's working. You understand what I'm saying? Like, where is this nonsense coming from? Somebody said, I would vote for you if you ran for president. I appreciate you very much. That means a lot to me. Let's see. We got some other comments in here. Let's see. It says, what's this say? It says, right. The Islamic countries try fear mongering with ISIS and other terrorists, and the Hindus have very subtle way of what they're doing, joining the RSS. Oh, you going deeper into the conversation. And these days, terrorists, the BJP, today's ruling South, lost its identity. So what they're talking about is some of the essentially clans and stuff in India, to the previous conversation that we were talking about, how they operate in India. That's a very good point. Thank you for making that point. And the fact that they're also part of political parties. So that's important too. Like, they've got religious political parties that are in power right now. And the BJP is very, very strong Hinduistic party. That's Moody's party, by the way. So then they've got a whole bunch of other stuff with the what do you call them? The Gandhis and all types of other stuff, which is a conversation for another day. But yeah, let's see what else we got here. All of these conversations about the Pope and stuff like this, it's very important. And I think I want to be very clear, right? And I'll get to some of these other comments in a second. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It doesn't cost you nothing. It takes 2 seconds. Subscribe, follow, and share. Okay, and drop some comments down there. As you drop the comments down, I'll do my best to pop them up on the screen and let you be part of the conversation. So talking about the Pope, my biggest concern is and has always been the unification of the body of Christ, right? I've seen in my whole life how the body has become more disunified, more disharmony, and everything like that. So what I am very much so concerned about right now, like I told you, the Anglican Church just recently split. We had the Methodists, they split because they wanted to start making women priests and stuff like that. So they split. We had the Southern Baptists almost broke up over a similar thing, talking about making women priests in the Southern Baptists. What was that, 2 years ago? Okay. But these aren't even the least of things. We got churches running around putting up like the Universalist Church, which isn't even Christian. Okay, I don't know what they are. Pagan idolatry, nonsense, trash, garbage, Satanism. Okay, I'm talking exactly what I said. I stand by everything I just said about the Universalist Church. That's why it's a Universalist Church, because they just accept all types of crazy nonsense, talking about they Christian. Y'all not Christian. Y'all serve y'all ruler, who is the father of lies, the devil. Because y'all be out there putting out all of this alphabetism, all of this social justice nonsense. And this goes for all of those other churches that are like that too. And real Christians need to start standing against these heretics and standing up and saying, no, these people are not teaching right. And Christians need to grow a backbone. Right now, we need Elijahs and not these passive PC, foo-foo, conca people that are so soft that they wouldn't bust a grape if a grape hit them in the head. Like, this is serious times. We need to be rebuking these people publicly and harshly. Okay? Scorn and ridicule is needed. Why? Because that's what they're doing to us. And how have they gained so much power? Because we won't stand up. Everybody's out here talking about the Muslims. Oh, the Muslims are doing this. The Muslims are doing that. How'd they get like that? How'd the Muslims get the chance to be so powerful in America? A Christian nation. How do Muslims get like that? It's not the Muslims' fault for doing that. It's the Christians' fault for allowing the Muslims to get like that. Because we've stepped away from our traditional positions in which we're supposed to have. You understand what I'm saying? I've talked about this before, where the government has basically taken over all the duties that the church has done, the hospitals, the outreaches for the homeless, all of these other different things, the education, okay, because we used to have more Christian schools. All of this stuff used to be done by the church and everything. Now they're done by NGOs. Okay, now they're done by all of these shady corporations and stuff like that. Where is the church? The church is fallen. It's time for us to rise again and stand up as Christians in our nation and say no more. We won't tolerate these people bashing Christians. We won't tolerate these people mocking Christ. We won't tolerate these people acting like Christians don't matter. We won't be silent. We won't be passive. We won't let the government shut down our churches because they're like, oh, it's a virus. You got to shut down your churches, but we're going to keep the liquor stores open. You understand what I'm saying? This is stuff that we need to stand up. We need to stand up now. We need Elijahs to stand up, okay, that are going to call out these heathens, these people that are sacrificing these babies, these people that are mutilating these children, okay, that are telling us that it's okay, that are telling us that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, that are telling us that it's okay to sleep around with everybody, that marriages aren't important, that are telling us to kill the babies because it pays them well. Come on now. Can you hear me out there? Let's be real with what's going on right now. We are very, 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 very serious in what is going on right now. And we need more people that are Christians and are strong of conscience to stand up and rebuke it publicly. Everybody's like, oh, well, it'll affect me or it'll affect my family or whatever the case is. Da, 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 da. Oh, so when you get to Jesus, when it's time for judgment and Jesus says, oh, well, you know, you were lukewarm Christian, so I'm going to spit you out. Because when the time came for you to stand up for me, you didn't want to say anything because you felt like it would affect you because, you know, I, as the Lord, wouldn't provide for you, or because I wouldn't make a way out of no way for you if you spoke up for me. That's wild. That's wild. And that is the problem with Christianity today. Too many weak Christians. And when you do pass and you do go before the Lord and he says that he didn't know you, you'll understand why. Because if you can hear the sound of my voice, you know what's going on. Because you won't stand up and rebuke these people. These fake pastors, these fake preachers out here preaching the prosperity gospel. Out here preaching this alphabetism from behind the pulpit, talking about they Christians. Bull sugar. You understand what I'm saying? Ain't none of these people, if you got a rainbow flag, okay, talking about LGBTQMI2QRTZ, whatever the rest of the letters are this week, okay? Like, I'm not even making a joke. I'm being dead behind serious. You understand what I'm saying? Like, because now it's, what is it? MMI, 2 plus Q, LGBTQITI, RS, and I'm missing some letters. There's some other letters there too that I'm missing. No, oh, I forgot A, you know, and all of this nonsense. If your church is about that, if you see a church about that, that is not a church. That is a den of deceivers. That is a den of deceivers, and they need to be rebuked with the harshest of rebukes. Christians need to be out there picketing in front of their locations. For real. That's what needs to be happening. Because more and more people are falling prey to this mind disease that is being pushed into our society by Satan himself and the devil, right? Now, I take Satan and I take the devil as being two different things completely. Satan, Lucifer, you know, sometimes they say that those things are different and the devil is something different completely. But I believe that the devil itself is not an actual creature. I believe the devil is a miswriting of the evil, because you know they used to put letters and then apostrophes. I think that's what happened. I think it's a misappropriation of the word. I think it's supposed to be the apostrophe evil, the evil, right? Talking about all of it collectively, right? The means of which Satan and Lucifer are working in the world together to push this evil, the evil, because it's all working together to the greater goal of the debasement of humanity, of pulling humans away from Christ and destroying our civilization. When will you stand up as a Christian? Let's see. Somebody said yes. I can't read that. That's too small. Sorry, guys. Sometimes it doesn't make it easy to read. What's this say? This says, why are you preaching about Jesus? But I can't see that. Why is it so small? I don't know what it's talking about. It's sorry. Some of these things are too small Somebody says the church is falling because more people are seeing through lies. So that's not why the church is falling. People aren't seeing through lies. People want to be comforted by these soft foo-foo things that feel good and make them feel good. They want to feel self-justified. They want to feel self-righteous. They want to feel like they're a good person, but they don't want to take any responsibility, any culpability. They don't want to take any introspection and look at themselves. You look at the story of one of my favorite stories is the story of the adulterous woman. They always get the story of the adulterous woman all wrong. They tell Christians we're not supposed to judge, but the whole Bible is about us judging righteously. Okay. It even talks about the whole, you'll know people by their fruits and all of this and all of that. So the story of the adulterous woman is very important because people will get it twisted. They'll say, oh, see how Jesus said that you shouldn't judge other people. That's not the message in that story. The message in the story is, he says, who is without sin cast the first stone. What he was teaching there is that all of these other guys that are over here talking about they about to stone this woman to death are guilty of exactly the same thing that she's guilty of, but they're not condemning themselves to death. So what it is saying is don't condemn others for the exact same thing that you're doing yourself. Okay, without holding yourself accountable as well. This goes into, I want to say it's Mark and it's also Luke. Okay, forgive me, I don't know the scriptures offhand, the designation of the verses, but it's Mark and Luke, and it talks about taking the plank out of your eye before you talk about the speck in your brother's eye. Okay, so again, there's that same thematic thing there. Like if you're doing the same thing and you got the same issues that this other person's got, you're condemning them for what you're doing. You need to be condemning yourself too. You got to check your own self too. But that requires introspection. That requires self-analysis and stuff like that. You know, there's this one thing, I forget who Paul was writing. I want to say maybe was it Thessalonians? Might have been Thessalonians. Don't quote me on that. You'll have to look it up. But he was like that they need to check themselves, right? Could have been Colossians. No, I'm pretty sure it was Thessalonians. Anyway, go look it up. But he was telling them, he said, yo, y'all not right. Y'all not doing right. And you need to look at yourself and you need to see if you've ever actually been saved or you're an actual believer to begin with. Right? There's that self-introspection. He said, because what you're showing right now is not what Christians would do. So either you've fallen away and you need to get on the right track, or you've never been saved at all. And that's very important. So I want to touch, we got a couple moments left. I want to touch on a couple of things before we get out of here. So hit that like button, hit the heart, drop a comment. I'm trying to pop as many comments up as possible. Okay, so please drop some comments, even if it's just a thumbs up or an American flag. The American flags help a lot. Let the system know that we've got engagement. Okay, and hit the follow button and the subscribe button. So let's get into the whole situation with China and South Korea right now. So if you may or may not know, South Korea had essentially a military injunction there under the last president. The last president said, listen, we got all of these people that are inside the government that are working for China. We need to have the military step in so that we can confine them and stop them. Then all of those people that were in favor of China conspired against him in basically their Congress to throw him out, put him in jail, and then pull him out of office. And now they're trying to execute him or whatever the case is. But all of those people were tied to China that did that. So he was right the whole time. And if you're not familiar, you're like, oh, well, what he did was a little bit extreme. It's not. South Korea has a history of military intervention in their politics. That's a whole nother thing. So the South Korean president, what's her name? His name, Lee Jae-myung, if I'm not pronouncing that right, you understand, chose the most recent trip, his first trip to go to China, right? So his first trip as president, he's going to China. Now, he's very, very close to China, lots of ties to China. And if you know, South Korea is one of our biggest allies in that area. And we've been using them to hold off North Korea, but also China. So if South Korea gets more close and tied in to China, not only would they not assist if China went into Taiwan, but they also will be starting to pull away more and more from the US. And you've started to hear, since this dude was elected, more and more anti-American rhetoric coming from South Korea. So these are conversations and things that we really need to identify and we really need to talk about, because talking about what's going on with Taiwan, bringing that into a bigger part of the aspect of the conversation, shows how China just had one of their people from Taiwan come over and meet with the Chinese ambassador and stuff in Beijing. Like, what are we doing here? China is your enemy. Technically, Taiwan is the Taiwanese Republic of China, or might be saying the name backwards, the Chinese Republic of whatever. It doesn't even matter. Taiwan is old China. Mainland China was taken over by the communists in the CCP, right? The ones on Taiwan are the nationalist Chinese, and the other ones are the CCP. So that's a very important conversation when China's like, oh, we're going to force reunification. And the reason why the nationalist Chinese are on Taiwan now is because of the US. So the US was supposed to supply the national Chinese with weapons against the CCP. We never did that when they were on the mainland. So when Mao did the whole after the whole bloody march that he did, go look it up, and everything that was going on with that, they pushed all of them back to Taiwan. The whole thought is that they'd regroup on Taiwan and they'd retake the mainland. That never happened. So that's where they are right now. And that's an important concept so you understand better what's going on right there. But China's been preparing more and more and more to go into Taiwan. They're doing tons of drills, more drills now than ever. Now they're starting to partner with the different groups, like I just said, for instance, with South Korea. And this is a problem, and with the people inside the Taiwanese government. So they're real close. They're real close to either overthrowing it internally or launching a military engagement there. But that's why the US is doing a lot of what it's doing on the world scale right now to tip the balance away from China. So for oil and for heating and cooling, we talked about that briefly earlier. That's why the US is going after Iran, Venezuela, Guyana. You don't know about Guyana, but go look the oil deposit up in there. That's a whole nother conversation. We could probably do a whole episode on that, but go look that up. And we're essentially reworking the way that the global hierarchy goes for oil and natural gas. And if we can control that, we can control China more and more and more and strip their ability to launch any type of real serious attacks against anybody else. We might even be able to, luckily, hopefully, topple their government. But we'll see. So we've got a couple of things I wanted to talk about and close, but we don't have a lot of time. So right now, the Department of Energy is working a lot to push nuclear energy in the United States. And that's a very, very, very important thing that's going on because we need more energy. I know a lot of you are seeing the continued rise in energy costs and stuff like that, and it's starting to get real bad. But that's because of poor policy that has been over-investing in things that do not provide equal energy generation, like the solar panels, like the wind turbines and stuff like that. Those might work in some places, not in all places. And that's part of the series that needs to be part of the conversation. So we've got a lot of stuff going on right now that's coming up that can be positive, but we have to see what the government is doing, be attentive to it, and we also have to see where we can benefit so that we can help support the things that are going to be beneficial for the US. And we can stand against the things that are not going to be beneficial for the US. Because at the end of the day, it's about our citizens, and it's about what we can do to better our citizens, just like they just reinitialized a contract to start a new refinery in Texas, which is like one of the first refineries in over 50 years. We need more gasoline and petroleum refineries in the US so we don't have to be dependent on everybody else, and we don't have to worry about that type of transportation into the US. So we're booming right now. Let's make it go even further, and let's look into the nuclear energy and see what else we can do. I appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Thank you for listening to The Divide. We'll catch you next week. Thank you guys for listening online. If you're listening online, please hit that like button and the share button and get the message out there. We've got a lot of other content that we'll be putting out over the next couple of days. So make sure you're subscribed and following. And if you're not on the YouTube channel, go to the Marcus C. Williams channel, okay, and subscribe. Now, we put out an episode of this once every week. It's Monday, 2:30 to 4 p.m. If you want to support the show, either side right here or down below, okay, we've got Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, however you'd like to help support the show so that we can do more episodes and get more airtime. There's a lot of conversations that we need to have that aren't able to be had in the general public because people don't want to talk about those things. There are a lot more segments that I'd like to do with you, but airtime does cost money, and it does cost my time and energy to try to put everything together. So we really could use your assistance in supporting the show, and we're working on getting the elephant in the room back up. We've got our first set of guests coming up soon, and we're just setting up a day for us to start doing those interviews for the elephant in the room. So again, if you're not following the channel now, make sure you follow and subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we got some great episodes coming up soon with that. We're going to be interviewing quite a number of very interesting people. So stay tuned for that. The elephant in the room will be making a comeback in 2 weeks. So I'll catch up with you guys later. Y'all be blessed and be well. And remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action.